Hi, I'm Curtis Thompson, and welcome to Then and Now, a piece of our African American history, as told by our fine panel of guests here who've been here. At least the baby of the bunch is 83 years old. So they have some stories to tell that are going to be relevant for us and our generations to come. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Well, right now we're going to introduce our panel of distinguished guests who are going to tell you a little bit about themselves and a little bit about where they're from in their lives. So let's start over here on my far left. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Mr. Lyles.
I'm Pastor James Lyles. I'm 88 years old. I was born in Texarkana, Texas in 1928.
Wow, 1928, that's, you said 88? 88 years old?
88 years old.
Wow, God bless you. Let's move to our next distinguished panelist, which you just amazed me so much. Miss Foster.
My name is Joanna Foster. I was born, I'm 102 years old. I was born in a little country place by the name of Waukesha, Louisiana, and that's near Opelousas, Louisiana. What else?
That's okay, we're going to come back and you're going to get a chance to tell us a bunch of good stuff. 102 years old. I know you have some things that you can share with this generation, so we're going to come back to that in just a moment. Next up we have Miss Robinson. Speak into the mic and tell us about yourself.
My name is Delano Catherine Hadley Robinson. I was born in 1933 on a plantation in Thomasville, Georgia, which is southeast part of the United States, near Tallahassee, Florida. On the plantation that the original owners are my heritage.
Right, that's wonderful.
So I'm just mixed with Irish and Indian and African.
I can't wait to hear about all of that. And last but not least, we have on the end here, Mr. Gilmore.
My name is Edward Robert Gilmore. Edward Robert Gilmore. I was born in Columbus, Ohio in 1926.
1926, that makes you 90 years old. Whew. That is wonderful. First of all, let me just say what it is and what an honor it is for me to sit here and glean from your fields as you share your stories, going forward. It is really, really an honor for me, and I'm looking forward to hearing what it is that you have to say. So let's go back to the beginning. And Mr. Lau, tell us about your life. Tell us about what it was like growing up and all of this stuff.
I grew up on a plantation in a little community called Homer, Arkansas. Mm-hmm. It was the Bryant Plantations and the Anderson Plantation. And then we moved to the Austin Plantation. And after living on the Anderson Plantation for 5 or 6 years, we moved to the Austin Plantation. And that was after the war began, World War II. And then in 1944, we moved to Texarkana, Arkansas. I was born on the Texas side, but we moved back to Arkansas. And
Bring that mic up for me.
And we lived in a little village called Iron Mountain Addition. it was close enough to the city to say that we had moved to town, but it was also in the country where we brought our cows, and our pigs, and our dogs, and all of that with us. So we virtually lived close enough to walk to town, but we were still country folk living in the country. And we lived there. I was 14, and I re-entered high school, Booker T. Washington High School, Texarkana, Arkansas. And I finished high school in 1948. And then I made ready for college.
So you said you finished high school in what year again?
1948.
Finished high school in 1948.
1948, and was fortunate enough to matriculate into Philander Smith College at Little Rock, Arkansas. And I graduated in 1952. When I graduated from high school, I graduated at the foot of my class. When I graduated from college, I graduated at the head of my class.
All right now.
And at that time, Southern Methodist University's Perkins School of Theology decided that they were no longer going to discriminate against people because of race. And so the trustees voted to admit people of color, black folk, as regular students in the theological seminary as an effort to begin desegregating, integrating the entire university. There were 5 persons selected to be admitted as regular students. I was one of those 5 persons.
So you're a pastor.
I was a pastor.
How long did you preach?
48 years under orders. After that, for 15 years, I was a chaplain at various hospitals and hospices in the Los Angeles area. And when Robert Kennedy Hospital closed in 2006, I was too old to ask anybody to give me a job. So I went to Barber College, and I finished Barber College and cut hair in nursing homes, convalescent homes, until I got to the place where I said, I'm gonna hang it up. And I hung it up.
All right, now, all right. Well, we're gonna come back and ask you some other questions, because some of the things you said really piqued some curiosity, some things that weren't on my question list, but we definitely have to talk about, especially with regards to integration in a theological seminary, because that, God is God, and I don't know if it's white God, black God, and that whole thing about how you have to integrate that teaching of the word, of the teachers of the word, is an interesting topic to me. So I want to come back to that one. Next, we have, we have you. Let's tell us something about yourself. 102 years old, my God.
I went to school in Waukesha, Louisiana for a few years, and then we moved to Welch, Louisiana. And I went to school there. However, I did not finish high school until I moved to Los Angeles. After, and quite much older, I was much older than I should have been according to the way kids went to school at that time. And I went to school and to the beauty school in Los Angeles down on Broadway. And then from there, I went to Jeff's High School in Los Angeles. And just catching school really wherever I could catch it. And I did not really finish high school till after I had been married and had a baby and moved to Pasadena, California. So I went to the high school in LA, in Pasadena.
Stay in the mic, sweetheart.
The high school in Pasadena. That's where I graduated from high school. So life was a little hard for me and my sisters and my brothers. My brother went to school in LA and got his high school diploma in Los Angeles. The other brother took up a trade in painting courses in Houston, Texas. And then from one thing to another. What else would you like to know?
That's okay. We're gonna come back and ask you some questions. So you went to beauty school so you can show them what beautiful looked like. Is that what that was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to
I know, that's
beauty
right.
school and graduated from beauty school under Mrs. Williams. Can't think of her first name. But it was great. We went from Pasadena to LA every day. And finally we finished school and we went to, it's a little difficult for me to remember where all the places were, but we had a big blowout in LA for the beauticians and barbers over the hotel. I can't remember now which hotel it was.
Listen, let me just tell you something. I can only imagine when you walked into that beauty school, how people must have just, fellas turning their head, because I'm looking at you now. You're 102 and you are gorgeous. I just had to tell you that.
Thank you.
Well, let's move on because we're gonna ask some questions. We're gonna really get into some more meat about this. So, Miss Robinson. Wait a minute. I gotta tell this to the camera real quick before, because we're gonna come back to this one. But I want to tease them. I want them to know this. Hold on a second. Our next distinguished person is Miss Robinson. She was married to Mac Robinson. Okay. For those of you who don't know, Mac Robinson was Jackie's brother. And let her tell that he was the taller, good-looking brother, because that's the one she married. She has some, we were in the green room and she was talking to me about some of the things related around the Olympics and Hitler and that whole thing that was going on during that time. And we really, really are looking forward to getting that information that piece of history from you, because that's just great. So enough with the commercial right now. I'm gonna let you go ahead and speak about yourself.
Yes, during the time that my growing up, I'll start with as a youth. I was born on a plantation in Georgia, and we worked partially for the people of the plantation, and they were the master. My father was a chauffeur, my mom was a cook. And my dad bought a piano for us, for the home. And we participated in Sunday school, church, and grew up learning how to sing. And in groups, there was a group in our family that we just loved music. And I'm number 8 of 15 brothers and sisters. I have 4 brothers that served in the United States Army from World War II up until the Vietnam War, and an uncle in World War I. But getting back to the family real quick, on my side of the family is music. And most all the, well, I lost one sister as a baby, an older sister, but the next 14 of us, my mom and dad were able to send us off to college with what earnings they could earn on the plantation as a cook and as a chauffeur.
Wait. You just said that your parents working on a plantation as a chauffeur and a cook sent 14 children to college?
My father and mother worked in those days. The schooling, to go to school, it was nothing, nowhere near like what you pay for schooling today. It was on the quarter system. And it was like $25 a quarter, 25 to 35. And there were very, very few to zero scholarships. There were none. So if not that, there were trade schools that some of my brothers and sisters participated in and graduated from. And if not that, then the 4 brothers that I had were drafted. They were all drafted. But my oldest brother was a minister. And at that time, they would not take the oldest son in a family, nor the youngest in the 40s. And I had 2 brothers. That was in World War II, and one went to Germany. But getting back to school time, we all sang, and there was a group we used to participate in church community activities, and my dad would sing with us. And one of my sisters played the piano named Agnes. She lives in Detroit, Michigan now. But what I like to say quickly is that the twins, there were twins in my family, Marie and Richard. Richard went to college at Florida A&M on a scholarship there and was a band instructor. He ended up band instructor. He's retired from that now. And his twin sister is a Metropolitan European opera singer. And she won on the Ted Max Amateur Hour many years ago. She sang on the Ed Sullivan Show many times, way back in the day. And she's traveled all over the country, Europe and everywhere. And then she got a scholarship to go to Germany to get another degree if she wanted to get her doctorate in opera singing.
Let me ask you
She
something.
lives back on the East Coast. She doesn't live in California.
Do you sing?
Yes, I do. I do sing in my church choir here.
Okay, I might have to have you hum a
I
few bars a little bit later.
I
Let's
sing, well, alto or contralto and soprano. And my mom could sing, my dad also could sing, so and on my husband's side, it's, as you know, it was track and field and baseball.
All right, we're gonna come back because I may have you sing some. I don't know
My
yet.
goodness.
Yeah, think of a song.
I'm gonna try. I may not know all the words.
All right, and last but not least,
Edward Robert
hold the mic up.
Edward Robert Gilmore. I was born in Columbus, Ohio, 1926. My father left when I was 3 or 4. My mother tried to work. We lived in a duplex. So she left us alone. My brother is 15 months older than me. My sister is, my brother was the oldest, my sister is the oldest, the next in my brother, I was. So the people from the children's home came and got us and put us in the home because we were left by ourselves. So we went to court and busted up the whole family.
Wow, that must have been something.
Yeah, it was. I guess that's the reason why I don't communicate too much. Raised by myself. And God has been good to me. Oh boy. I went,
Take your time, tell it.
okay. The children's home would give people a chance to raise a child so they could have a home experience. So the lady that raised me, they stopped paying a little bit after I was 16. I think they stopped paying before that, but she kept me. But then I went to high school, and it's a black high school with a white teacher. And my English teacher told me that I was stupid to get up and give my chair to somebody that could learn. So I had to go back to the home, and I told him I would run away if I had to go back. She said, "You're close enough to get into service, so why don't you join the service?" And I did. But then I thought I was going to have a career in the service, but they didn't want me to have a career in there. So after I got out, I get a little fuzzy there. They give you mustard out pay, and being stupid, I squandered it. And then I finally went back home to it was my mother. And I don't know, my life's been messed up.
You know what, Mr. Gilmore, you know, I'm listening to you speak. And the way that you speak is eloquent. And I hear the words that you're using, and I think that those are terms that someone has put on you, and not who you are. I felt compelled in my spirit to share that with you, because you're here, and you have a story that needs to be told. Because listen, there are people who are in foster care right now, who can't even envision themselves at 90 years old, who don't think that they can make it that long, you know, and still have worth. You know, you have kids, you know, that love you. Your daughter gave me a packet on you, and I saw your pictures from your naval career. Those things are important, and the story that you have to tell is going to help someone, is going to save someone's life, because they're going to look at you and go, "You're still, Mr. Gilmore is still standing," and what was said about him is the same thing that they're saying about me right now. I don't have to believe that, because I see an example standing in front of me that outlasted those people who had negative things to say.
Well, I joined the church at 9, and God has been good to me ever since. So I got to get over the habit of not being worthy.
So let's just change gears. I want to ask you guys a couple of questions. I think 3 of you, and I don't know about you, Mr. Robinson, but Mr. Gilmore, talked about being a kid and living on a plantation.
Yes.
Wow. I have kids who, you know, if the cable goes out, if the internet goes out, they mad. They don't know what they're gonna die. You know, and so I can't even imagine what it would be like to have grown up or been a kid living on a plantation. So can you guys just kind of tell me about that? Take turns and talk about life living on a plantation.
Well, I'll just...
But please do me a favor, speak into the mic, because we got to capture this recording.
I'll say that living on the plantation was really, it was beautiful, because the owners, the original, the ones that, that purchased from Ireland, Irishmen, we had everything. We did not have to struggle and like say, today you have county, people on the county. I really didn't know what county and welfare or anything. I didn't know what all of that meant until I got married in 1955. But as a kid growing up, we had our own garden, and my mom used to can goods. And after she had 15 children, she went back to school and became a beautician. She had a beauty culture instruction down in Tallahassee, Florida. We lived right at the top of Florida-Georgia line. If you look at the map in the lower part of the United States. Okay, so Pebble Hill Plantation, on the plantation, we worked, and my dad, I could remember years ago when he got paid on Fridays, his paycheck was all in cash. They would give him cash. They never got checks. They got cash, and he would come bring it home, and my mom and dad would go shopping on Saturday, and we had a beautiful family life. Church was built on the plantation for the workers that worked for the, say, the white people in those days. Because there were 3 brothers, I believe, as my dad would tell us, that came from Ireland. And they found out that North America was more prosperous for cultivation of fruits, vegetables, and growing of cotton and cane and all that kind of stuff, more so than the northern part of the United States.
So was that a sharecropping thing?
Sharecropping was mostly done like between, I would say, from like Maryland, right on down through Kentucky, Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia, on into Florida with the citrus, you know, the fruit, and right on into California. And what they did, my family, where I came from, they went to Africa, the people to do the work on the plantation. They went and made beards of Africans in Africa and left money with African people over there for their, I want this one, I want that one, I want the other.
And this was in...
brought them to America.
What year?
And this was way back in Mrs. Robinson and her family came to California. My husband, mother, with her 5 children, she divorced her husband and left him in Georgia in 1920. But we traced our family roots back to 1700 on my dad's side, 1760 on my mom's side from England. And they also did the same thing, the white people they called in those days, and brought the Africans to America. And my great-great-grand, the 4th generation of the white slave owner. And he fathered children by some of the Africans. So this is where we come in the picture. And life for us was just like you can compare San Marino to Pasadena. We never had to worry about anything. The homes were built, and we had our church, we had our schoolhouse.
So let me ask you this.
Yes, sir.
So during the time that you were living on the plantation, you experienced the person who owned the plantation fathering children from the people who lived there?
My dad explained to us about that procedure. That is what happened. That was our heritage. And our family now is so large, we have been able to, we have a family reunion, and I have a brother that was my last brother that was in the service in Vietnam War. He started a family reunion because there's so many of us, so many family of the Hadley. It's called Hadley, Hadleys from Ireland. And so we have a very large family reunion and have one every year. We have over 1,000 relatives we've located across the United States.
Let me bump to Mr. Lyle. Tell me about your experience as a child on the plantation.
My experience was absolutely the opposite of her experience. We were serfs, and our objective was, the objective of my mother and father was to have a roof over our heads and food on the table. And we worked from 7 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock in the evening. And when the bell tolled, we got up at 4:30 in order to be in the field at 7.
Were you picking cotton or fruit, or what were you doing in the field?
We were sharecroppers, and the two major things that we farmed was cotton and corn. We raised our own hogs, chickens, and cows. We always had enough food to eat. Maybe not as much as we wanted to eat, but enough to eat. The situation, if I understood you, that your situation was a pleasant situation. My growing up on the plantation was not a pleasant situation. It seems as if your community was a peaceful community without violence, and my community was very, very violent, and we were a very religious family.
Now, when you say violent, what do you mean violent? How?
I mean, on Saturday night, from Friday night through Saturday night, in my community, some young man or young woman was shot, cut, sometimes killed, or left for dead, and it was just not safe.
And was this violence within the community? I mean, it was black on black violence?
Black on black crime, which the plantation owner tolerated. Black on white crime, you went to jail. And so I remember in 1932, when Roosevelt was elected president and took office in 1933. We didn't have Social Security, except the children were the social network for the parents. And so there were 7 boys in my family. And
so when you say social network, you mean that was a support. In other words,
yes.
Your kids took care of you as you aged. If you didn't have kids,
if you didn't have kids, it was very difficult.
Or as my parents would say, that was a hard row to hoe.
Yes, very hard. And from what I got from you, the plantation owner was rather civilized.
He was really very communicative with the employees that worked for him, because and many of the things that you mentioned there concerning Roosevelt, you see, he's responsible for Social Security,
Yes.
and that made it possible for Social Security today is what I myself am receiving. And so, and what really motivated me, I'm in the medical field. So I'm retired. I'm kind of interfering with your discussion there about plantation life. But to move on down really quickly here, I'm retired from working in 5 hospitals all the way from Georgia to New York, right into Pasadena, St. Luke's, Huntington, and ended up at LA County USC Medical Center in emergency nursing. So what motivated me in the medical field was at the age of 9, I became very ill. And my mom at first said, oh no, you just need to just take care of yourself, run and go to the, at that time it was a toilet outside. And it was not that, and it got worse. So they called in the nurse on the plantation. We had a plantation nurse. The doctor would come in from the city to make sure we all got our shots. And we were well taken care of, all of the plantation workers.
You know what's very interesting is that you guys have like almost diametrically opposed experiences to life on a plantation. Now, you were in what area again?
I was in southwest Arkansas.
Southwest Arkansas, and you were at the Georgia-Florida line.
South, let's see, you could say east, well, let's see, Tallahassee, Florida. If you look at the lower part of the United States map, there's Valdosta, Georgia, Waycross, there's Atlanta. So we're south of Atlanta, Georgia. Okay. Thomasville, Georgia is just the border of Georgia, Florida, Tallahassee, Florida.
That's interesting because it's the same type of organization, a plantation, yet very, very different. Hold your thought for just, did you hear something? Because I want to hear her.
Go ahead.
Okay, and then we'll come back. We're going to talk for a while. So, Miss Houston Foster, let me hear. Tell me what it was like growing up or being a child on a plantation.
Me?
Yes, ma'am.
Say it again.
What was it like growing up being a child on a plantation?
Well, it was very nice. We thought it was nice. There were 4 besides me, and our daddy plowed in the field with horses and a plow. And it was, once in a while we could see my mother's father. He was a minister. And on Sundays, he would be sure to see that we went to Sunday school. And it was 5 or 6 of them, him and his wife and the children. So it was very nice.
Now, you know, it was what I'm wondering too is does that have anything to do with, because I'm listening to you describe your father working out in the field and doing all those sort of things, and it was nice for you guys, right? Is that a male-female thing possibly? Because your experiences that you was out in the field from 7 in the morning till 6 and getting up at 4 to get started. I'm just wondering, does that have anything to do with, you know, men had to go out and do heavy, hard labor, and you guys had to a kind of a lighter load to carry, or I don't know. You gonna speak to that?
We had heavy lifting, hard work, and it wasn't easy. The plantation owner and the people who worked for the plantation owner were not nice to the black folk who lived on the plantation. I recall in the spring and summer when you are cultivating the cotton and the corn, you are chopping cotton and you are hoeing cotton. You chop the cotton when it's young and weeds and grass is plentiful.
What were you chopping with?
A hoe. And you would chop the cotton. And then as the summer came, you would hoe it. Now when you chop the cotton, you thin the cotton and you cut all of the weeds from around it. When you hoed, you didn't have to thin the cotton out. You would just cut the weeds away, and then it would grow to maturity. And we had two times when we went to school, because during the harvesting, the cultivation season and the harvesting season conflicted with the September to May. So we went to school in the summertime because we had to be out of school in the fall and early time, in the early fall and late fall, because we were harvesting the cotton and the corn.
So would it be safe for me to say that your education came second to the prosperity of the landowner, right? So you had to work around when they could make money.
That's right.
Let me ask you one other question. So in my generation, and I have seen this, where it kind of goes back and forth, but there's this, there was a time period where, light skin, black, dark skin, that whole issue was really out there. And so I pose that because of this. I'm listening to you two, and you didn't grow up on a plantation, so we're gonna come back to you because I got some stuff for you too. I ain't forget about you over there. So I'm looking at you two lovely ladies, you two lovely light-skinned ladies. I'm looking at my brother over here, dark-skinned, strong, handsome man, black man, and I'm hearing two totally different experiences. So I'm wondering, does that have something to do with it, maybe?
Okay, I can tell you this much.
But get the microphone, because I want to hear you.
I can tell you this much about the color part of that. When we were growing up, my father, what they would do, they would separate. There were so many of us, they looked white and they looked dark, like my friend here, dark complected. And what they would do, the darkest of the Hadleys worked in the fields, and the lighter Hadleys all worked in they call it the big house.
Right.
I wish I had brought that picture. I did bring some pictures of part of my family that I'll talk about a little later, but on my husband's side. But they worked in, they call it the big house, the White House. And they did the lighter work, maid work, cooking, serving the people, and what small gardens that was done on the plantations. And the darker ones are the ones that did the plowing.
So what you just said was that they separated according to hue.
Yes.
Darker folk had to go out and do heavy lifting out in the field, and then the lighter folks worked in the big house. They got to do the stuff in the big house.
Exactly.
I mean, that's consistent with what I heard. But I see you. I want to get to I want to hear what you have to say. And we'll talk about what I want to afterwards, but I just want to put it out there on the table. I want to know what that had, what kind of effect that had within our community. So the dark-skinned folks come in tired from working out in the field all day. The light-skinned folks have been in the big house, in the White House. What kind of inner community, strife that caused is something I wanted to see if we can address, but Mr. Law, you were going to say something.
I wanted to say that these two sisters are the results of a time before we lived on the plantation. Slavery, when there was a different kind of relationship between slaves and the slave owner. Sometimes the slave owner would mistreat and abuse the young women, and consequently, we have all of these colors. Black folk in America celebrates every color and hue you can name. And so I congratulate you. You are beautiful. And you represent a time when there was equality. There is no unequality in the bed.
That is so true, because in my family, we're mixed.
Yes.
Because the slave, the white slave owner, I'm the fourth generation of, he is my great-great-grandfather.
Was white.
It was white,
Yes.
from Ireland. And his son fathered children by the African women that they brought over. And this is where the color
Yes.
of the light and the really fair and the hair was different. And so this is why they work the way they put them to work. And you know, the Africans build a White House in Washington, D.C.
That's right.
And so we must never forget that. We have to give, and so for one good thing I would like to really quickly say is that my brother that did a museum, we have the first black museum on the plantation in Georgia. That is, he's collected over 3,000 pieces of artifacts. And it's in Thomasville, Georgia, on the plantation there, near the high school where we went to high school. And he has collected so much material that it's on the internet. If you would look up Jack Hadley, I believe it's Jack Hadley Museum in Thomasville, Georgia.
That's the Jack Hadley Museum in Thomasville, Georgia.
And it's out there.
Miss Foster,
Yes.
when she was talking, I saw you light up a couple of times. It was something you wanted to say when she was talking about, having white ancestry and the light skin, dark skin controversy within the black community.
Well, I was kind of laughing. And it wasn't exactly the same all over everywhere.
I want you to keep that mic in front of you so we can get this on recording.
Oh.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
We had a man to nurse us, somebody my father knew. And this man took us wherever we had to go, whatever we had to do. This man would do it with us. So we were a little bit different, not exactly the same. And we had a mill where we had horses that would drag a plant around and make cane syrup. You know what syrup is?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Mules would go around, and we had big barrels that was almost full of cane syrup, which is very good. So it was a little different, to compare it to.
I remember those days with the horse going around.
Yeah, and my father drove a school bus. Horses would pull it, and then they put a motor in it. It would take the white kids to school, and the black kids had to walk to school down
Yes.
a muddy road. So
Yes.
it's just so much I could tell you
Yes,
that I can't say right now what happened.
yes.
But it was
different for whites and blacks. Let me just pop over to Mr. Robinson for a second. What's your experience, your black-white experience as you were, because you talked about some things when you were in the Navy, and how they sold you a bill of goods going in the door. Once you got in the door, because of your color, it was a totally different story. Can you talk to us about that?
Right.
I was going to try to make a career in the Navy, but they didn't let me because I was the wrong color. I couldn't get what I wanted to do because I wanted to be a mechanic. But God blessed me enough that I finally wound up being a mechanic because I trusted the Lord all the time. Other than that, you can look around and see how blessed you are from your situation. But I raised my family. I got 5 grandchildren, 1 granddaughter, and 2 great-grandkids. So, and my family really been doing good. Everybody's accomplished something, and I'm thankful to the Lord for that.
So you volunteered for the Navy,
Yeah,
and you signed up to be a mechanic.
yeah.
Tell me just a little bit more about how you felt. I mean, how that whole process went when you got there, and they told you that you could either be what was it, a service mate, or I can't think of the name, or a cook, steward's mate or a cook, right?
Yeah.
Those were your 2 options,
Yeah.
regardless of what you signed up for,
Yeah.
right? How did that happen?
Well, I was very, very disappointed, but I found out being a cook is the best place I could have been. Because food can get you anything you want.
You was working a little food angle on the people in the boat, huh?
Right.
Like, okay, you want a little extra something? You're gonna have to, okay.
Yeah. And the doctor always stuck behind you because he was in charge of how well the food was served and what food you could serve. Because I know I was really blessed. One day we had beans, and I had soaked beans. I forgot about it. But then the Lord said, put it in the pot, boil it, drain it, boil it, drain it, boil it. When it comes out clean, you got beans. And I used to be able to smell the food and see what was lacking in the food.
That's a skill set.
Yeah.
I can't do that until I taste it. And then I'm better with salt. I don't use salt.
What he said about the Navy, when you finish, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm finished. I don't talk much anymore.
They told my brother that he could be an engineer when he was recruited. When he got there, they said, you can be a cook or you can be a steward. And that's what he was. He became a chef, and then later on, he became a steward. And he served the captain. And one thing we always will remember is that he had an allotment made to my mother, money. And he said that on the captain's desk were all of the allotment applications. And he served the captain at his desk. And he went in one day and here my mother's application was there. So he didn't wait for the captain to approve it. He took the captain's stamp and approved it and moved it from one side of the desk to the other. And she got her allotment.
I tell you, these stories, we may have to do part 2 of this. But right now I want to move to some of the questions. So we gathered some questions from folks online, and there were some things that they just wanted to know from folks like you who know. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and we'll go from there. Let's start with you, Ms. Foster. Here's a question. Knowing what you know now, if you were half your age, would you take more risk? And what would you do differently?
Well, say it again.
So knowing what you know now, if you were 51, is there anything that you'd do differently?
I think it would be. I would do things differently.
What would they be?
Well, what would that be? I would have gone to school when I was young, according to age group. I would have been in school. I would not, well, I was good to my sisters and brothers, those that was younger than I was very good to them. We had to wash and iron sometimes at night in order to go to school clean the next day. Right now, I can't say, but any number of things, I would have done it in a different way.
So what you said though was you talked about education, the importance of education.
Yes.
And the love for your family.
Yes.
That'd be a good way for me to summarize it.
Yes.
Okay. I want to take a male perspective on that question. So I'm going to ask you the same question. If you're 88, right? You're 88, right? So if you were 44, half your age, what would you do different? Knowing what you know now, would you do anything differently? And if you would, what would you do differently?
Well, let's go back, further back than 44. I think that if I had to do it over again, I would be a more disciplined student in college. And I would have been better prepared to do what I wanted to do. And so at 44, I would have achieved more than I have achieved because I didn't do the things I would do now if I had the opportunity.
Yes, again, back to the value of discipline, application of yourself, and education. Huh?
Application, yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes. When you don't go to the Army in World War II and you go to college with the veterans that are in college, you have two communities. The veterans came to college and they were serious. They had families and they studied. Those of us who were just slightly too young for World War II went to high school, went to college, and what did we do? We played, we were young. We didn't have responsibility at that time.
So it's really about applying yourself at a young age,
yes,
so that you don't have to do the heavy lifting on the back end. Amen.
Exactly.
Amen. So I want to move on to this next question, and I'm going to ask you, Ms. Robinson.
Yes, of course.
So I'm going to say this statement, and then I want you to tell me, have you found this statement to be true? Okay? This is what people want to know. The statement is a part of a sentence, and you'll get where it comes from. It's one nation under God with liberty and justice for all. Being a black woman in America who lived on a plantation and gone through the things that you've seen, have you found that statement to be true?
On a plantation, I would say that to me, I'm proud of the experience that I had personally of what it was like
What I'm asking, really, let me clarify. This is about not specifically the plantation experience, it's the American experience as a black woman.
As a black woman, I think that we've had an opportunity to really be more outgoing. The things for us would be better if it had not been for the sign that says white over here and it says black or colored over there. But you see, after that was changed, and now it makes it much better that the opportunities are much open, wider, where we can make a choice and be more proud of ourselves. Today, as years back when I was growing up, we got along fine with the white people. There were really aren't any problems on the plantation, but it really make a lot of difference today with the opportunities. But the thing is, young people today should really try to take advantage of all these opportunities that are here for them, because scholarships weren't even in my day. Today they're all over. Because, as you know, my brother-in-law, Jackie, that broke the color barrier in 1947, I think his picture is up here somewhere on some of these boards here. Mm-hmm. But anyway, breaking the color barrier, it made it possible for not only women, but men, and black men, and also the Spanish people to
You know, I know
better life.
I know that we're in the question and answer, but I gotta get you to talk about this. In the green room, we were speaking about the experience of the 1932 Olympics. You know, with your husband winning a medal, your brother-in-law winning a medal, and then it being in Germany and Hitler's response to that whole. I mean, I'm sitting here in front of someone who lived that experience as you know, was there, relatives and husband and brother-in-law. And can you share with us? Can you share with the audience that experience of that time period and what your family actually did in breaking, you know, winning the gold and you know, the medals there and the response from the Third Reich?
Well, what I could try to say from what Mac has relayed to me is that Pasadena, for sure, really did not recognize him when he came from Germany. And
this is after medaling in the Olympics.
This is the 36 Olympics, not the 32. That was at the Coliseum. 36. And
In Germany.
In Germany.
Germany, my bad.
Yes, in Germany. So coming back to home here, only 3 people met him at the train station. But you see, with now today, there's joy, there's exploitation of enjoyment, and peace is much easier today than it was long in the time of years back. And it was very hard. But with the bag of items that they would give to the Olympians to take in 36 were like so. A very small, like a shoebox size, just a sweater. And of course the shoes that he won the silver medal in, he couldn't even get any new shoes to wear in Germany. They would not give him any shoes. Those shoes that I have today, I should have brought the picture, I'm so sorry I didn't. But the shoes are the same ones he wore at Washington Junior High School here in Pasadena, Pasadena City College, and John Muir High School, and to the University of Oregon, and on into Germany. So times were really pretty rough. And for Jackie, he had it tough himself. And with Jackie, Mr. Ricky knew what a temper he had, being a great athlete. And he asked him, he says, I want you you're going to be humiliated many a day. I want you to actually to keep your tongue in your mouth and turn the cheek the other way. And that made the doors open wider. And so today, the gentleman, that everyone, boys and girls that are participating and getting these large contracts are able to get them now.
So you told me in the green room that when the race was being run and then it was finally won and the medals were going to be handed out, that Hitler was infuriated and refused to come down to the field for the ceremony that was planned?
Yes, Mr. Hitler, when the 200-meter race it was, Jesse had already won 3 gold medals. And this was really the 4th gold medal. And when they were announcing the winners at the end of the race, they called his name, and it burned him to no end to know, oh, an American? Because he really did not want the Americans to be a part of the 1936 games. He hated it so bad because he knew and he had heard how great the athletes were that are coming to Germany, to his Nazi country at that time. So what happened when Jesse's name was called, he was getting red in the face. Then when they called again in the United States, number 2, and they called my husband's name Mac, it was really infuriating to him because he was so angry he got up and walked out of the stadium. And the bronze medal went to a German guy. But no, Hitler was very humiliated.
Wow, he didn't like the idea of American
like
or Black American.
Exactly, he just didn't. He wasn't happy.
What is the most important advice you would give to a child of this generation?
Follow God,
Follow God always works.
right? Because we get to the point now, we're after money and prestige, and we don't realize that God has a plan for all of us. And if we pay attention to it, we can find that plan and make life a lot better.
I like that. Same question for you, yes. What is the most important advice that you would give to a child of this generation?
Well, this generation, I would really like to say I'm retired, as I said earlier, from LA County Hospital in nursing. And I wasn't so contented sitting at home, and then after my husband passed in 2000, I went back to school. At my age, early, I don't know, maybe age 60, I guess, or so. And I took up daycare to open up daycare for working mothers to take care of their children while they work. So I was licensed by the state of California for a daycare in my home, and I had that for about almost 10 years until I came down with breast cancer. And then on top of that, I still wasn't satisfied. So I went to Altadena and I took classes for foster children, and I worked with 5 Acres about 4 years prior to my surgery. And so since that time, in 2006, I've been in just total retirement at home. But I would say that youngsters should really take advantage of the different offers that are out there today, because when we were growing up, we paid attention to mom and dad, we did our homework, and we attended church, and we had good services at church and Sunday school, and participated in activities in the community, which really instilled in us that for your future, try to obey and things will open up for you. But first, love yourself.
I love that. I love that. Did you guys hear what she said? Education, community, and self-love. Those 3 things are important. You gotta love yourself, you gotta get education, as my dad would say, you gotta get some fat on your head, and you gotta love yourself. 102, and just as beautiful as you can be. I'm gonna ask you that same question. What's the most important advice that you would give to a child of this generation?
I would tell them to go to school,
Education.
learn all that they can learn. It is so very important. Among so many other things, right now I can't say exactly what I would tell them.
What you just said was great. It's education.
Yes.
You know, here's the thing that's amazing to me, is you don't get to be 102 and not have a whole lot of wisdom. Whether you can't say it at the moment or not, it just comes out of who you are. And if you say education at 102, that's meaningful. And that's 3 out of 4. And he talked about it earlier. He was kind of shaking his head, but I want to give him a chance to answer that question for himself. A shameless plug. Shameless plug for Mr. Lyle. He actually authored this book. It's called Hard Trials, Great Tribulations. He published this book himself, and it talks about many of the issues that we've been covering and talking about in this interview. I think you can go online and get it at his website, if I'm not mistaken. Is it on Amazon? Or go to Amazon. The author is James V. Lyles. The book is Hard Trials, Great Tribulations. Good read. I suggest that you pick up one. And I'm getting him to sign mine today, so. Oh, it's already signed. I haven't even opened it up yet. All right. This is mine. You can't have it. So, Mr. Lyle, I'm going to ask you this question, and then we're probably going to be done shortly after that. What is the most important piece of advice that you would give to a child of this generation?
Education, 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 education. Now, once you settle that, you go into secondaries. And then the second thing, well, let me say this. When I was an adolescent, my mother and father didn't know anything. It was my peer group. And I would say to adolescents, youth, make your parents a part of your peer group. Because your peers...
That's good. That's good.
Your peers will go in all directions, and you will be with them. But when something happens to you, your parents, your sister, your brother will be there.
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to do me a favor. Look over there in camera. Look directly in camera number 2 and say that to the people.
I would say after education is for adolescent and older youth to make their parents a part of their peer group. Because peer groups go in all directions. But if something bad happens to you, the peer group is going to scatter. And it will be your mother, your father, your sister, or your brother who will come and have to take care of you. Now that means slow down, listen, glue your lips together, and bore a hole in your ears so you will hear what is being said and follow the good things that are being said, and you will be a part of the generation of people, black people, all people, who will go up, up, up.
I don't think we could have closed any better than that.
Well, I would like to say something quickly here.
So in the middle again, this is Jesse. Jackie, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Okay, yes, this is Jesse Owens right here. This one, that's Mac, and that's Ely Williams. And this gentleman was a classmate of Max. He was on the Olympic team in 1936, and these are some businessmen from Los Angeles. I'm not sure who their names are. This is in 1936, and this is when we celebrated just last year. Mac was 100 years old, and the city of Pasadena gave an honoring right in front of the big heads that are the statues of the heads of Mac and Jackie in front of City Hall right in Pasadena. The head that's looking straight at City Hall, that's Mac. The one that's looking east, that's Jackie. Now this is a proclamation that was presented to Mac when he participated in the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles. He was on the team that helped walk the Olympic flag in the Coliseum in 1984. And over on the side over here, the next picture here, I would just kind of point to, he had a service station over in Los Angeles. And he just kept busy. He just couldn't sit still with himself. And up here was just before he had the heart attack, the one way up in the far left over here. In the middle is when he was a student and attendance in track and field at Pasadena Junior College, but now it's Pasadena City College. And this is him here holding his 1936 medal.
All right.
Interest and tell the youth that Mrs. Robinson, we give credit to her. She was both mommy and daddy to her 5 children from 19 and 20 till her death.
It is up on the shoulders of those that came before us, in which the generation current stands.
Right.
And so with that, I want to say that you guys represent those pillars. The 4 of you are the foundations for the things that our youth will do, in the future. And so it's with that, I want to just say that the following is, please remember that always revered in any society has been the people who were the keepers of the stories. Those were the folks who people gathered around to hear the history of their people, to help inform them as to who they should be going forward and growing up, and then to pass those stories on to their generations that come beyond them. We have before us 4 people who are those who represent the stories, the gatekeepers, the storytellers, the people in society who are revered, and are going to help propel our future generations to greatness. It is the shoulders upon the Mac Robinsons and these fine people we have here that our children will stand on and we currently stand on. Let's continue to treat them and revere them with the respect that they deserve. Thank you for tuning in. For Then and Now, I'm Curtis Thompson. We'll see you next time.
Okay, so what did you think about the show today?
It's great. It's a great show.
All right, and tell them how old you are again.
Yeah.
How old are you again?
102.
Woo! And when's your birthday?
The 8th of June.
You have a birthday coming up.
Coming soon. They're
Yes.
gonna make a fuss of it.
Now, what's the secret? What's the secret? Do you eat differently? What is it?
Just do what you do every day. And I said, above all things, be good to children and to senior citizens. Don't forget those 2. If you do it, you'll make it.
All right. What would you think about it?
Oh, that's real nice. It's good to have all the information you can get, because like they say, if you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going.
Exactly.
I remember the face.
What did you think about the show today?
Well, I think it was really very exciting and educational. We tried to tell our story as we were youngsters ourselves and make the comparison with what's going on today. The opportunities are bigger and they're better, and the doors are wide open, and we advise youngsters to please take advantage.
All right.
That